Lesson 101 is on factorable denominators, and the best way to learn about these is just to go ahead and do some practice problems. Look at this example here. I want you to simplify that relationship there by adding the two fractions together. Now in these problems they'll be designed so that you can factor that trinomial, and then you'll want to use your least common multiple of the denominators, and that way you can add the denominators together. But if you look at it right there, it looks really complicated. It looks like you would have to multiply the fraction on the right by x squared minus 3x minus 10 and the fraction on the left by x minus 5 and get a really complicated problem to work with. Well, first, factor that denominator on the left, and you'll end up with 5x over, set up your binomials, and you would have an x minus 5 and an x plus 2 minus 4 over the binomial x minus 5. Let's just put that in parentheses to think of that as one quantity. And now you can see that you have an x minus 5 in both denominators. And so on the right, the fraction on the right, you would just need to multiply it above and below by x plus 2. And so the least common multiple of those denominators is x minus 5 times x plus 2. Now you have a common denominator for the two fractions. So you can put a fraction bar down and put x minus 5 times x plus 2 as your denominator. And then the numerator, you'll have a 5x minus 4x, 4 times x, so that's a negative 4x, and then minus 4 times 2, which will be a negative 8. And so that will reduce to x minus 8 over x minus 5 times x plus 2. And so that's the addition of those two fractions. That's the result. Now, these problems are designed, and the ones in the problem set and the homework will be too, so that you can factor the trinomial, and usually it has one factor in common with the other denominator. Like this one, we recognized right away after we factored that there was an x minus 5 in common, and then we just needed to multiply the one on the right by x plus 2 over x plus 2 to get common denominators. Then we could add. Let's do one more. Look at this problem. Let's factor those denominators first, and then we'll add those two fractions together. So we'll have 3, and then we'll make this into a binomial. X minus 5 times x minus 3 is what that would factor into. And then we have minus 5 over x squared minus 3x. Now there's an x that we can factor out there, right? So just go ahead and do that. No matter what it is, if it's just something small like that, just go ahead and factor it anyway. Now look, we can see there that we have two factors in common. X minus 3 is in both of those. But we need to get a common denominator, and so that means on the left side we need to multiply by x over x. And then on the right side by x minus 5 over x minus 5. Now we have common denominators. So let's go ahead and write out our denominator, x times x minus 5 times x minus 3. And our numerator becomes x times 3, or 3x, minus 5 times x, or just negative 5x, and then minus 5 times minus 5 is positive 25. And so then we end up with a negative 2x plus 25 all over x times x minus 5 times x minus 3. So there's our solution. So on these problems where they ask you to add two fractions together that maybe have trinomials in the denominators, go ahead and see if you can factor them first and simplify that, and it sure makes it a whole lot easier to add the fractions if you have some factors there in common already. And just remember too, these problems are designed for you to be able to factor the trinomials into binomials. Okay, well that's all for lesson 101.